So the last thing that we wanted to discuss for the day was critical care transport, where we're going with that, and just what you see with RSI and that critical care transport issues.
Okay. There's some changes afoot in our rulemaking process in Montgomery about critical care or advanced practice paramedicine in the state. For a long time, we only had RSI being performed by the air services, and now we have several ground services that are doing RSI as well as the air services. They have to maintain the same training, they have to meet the same standards as the air services. I think we will have more ground services that do RSI. There is a process in place at this point in time where we're developing critical care protocols, because in the past each company had their own protocols, and we're in the process of developing protocols that sort of are all encompassing that all advanced practice services will use. In the past, if you wanted to go to work for a service that provided advanced practice paramedicine, then you actually could be signed off by your medical director, and we wanted to move toward specialty certification through the International Board of Specialty Certification for that flight paramedic, critical care paramedic. And if you were a nurse paramedic, we would certainly accept the critical care or flight nurse certification. So in the past, you actually had to, you could start,
Sure.
Your medical director had to sign off, basically taking responsibility for you for the first 2 years, and then you actually had 2 years to get that certification with other criteria, 8 intubations per year, with 6 of them being high fidelity, up to 6 being high fidelity intubations and 2 not. Basically live, it had to be live intubations. As we convene this critical care protocol committee, critical care committee, made up of some physicians, but certainly the majority of the people were critical care paramedics. We basically wanted them to police their own. Their suggestion was that we not allow the medical director to sign off for them for 2 years. Their take on it was there needs to be training up front to move forward. So they basically suggested that the people doing RSI, flying on the helicopters, working on the ground services that are doing RSI, they actually had to have that International Board of Specialty Certification training and certification up front rather than 2 years down the road. So that's where we're moving. Those rules have been written, and I think it's a great idea. So those rules are being promulgated now, and are going through the different well, not necessarily committees, but going through the normal rule-making process that we have at the health department, and there's a process that we have. So I think we're headed in the right direction with critical care oversight in the state. What we did not want to do is we did not want one service doing this and one service doing that. We wanted to know what every service was doing and have a general consensus of everybody's doing the same thing. I think you'll see more and more ground services do that as well. Right now, one of the things that limits certainly some of the ground services is that they have to have 2 personnel in the back of the ambulance that are trained in advanced airway maneuvers and airway management, intubation. Not as much of a problem for somewhere like here at North Star or Tuscaloosa Fire, but for some of these rural services where they just can't put 2 paramedics in the back of the ambulance.
It's just not financially
it's not
feasible.
financially feasible, and not from a personnel standpoint. They just don't have the
They don't have
personnel.
right.
So I think that has been problematic for some of these rural areas. But I think with the ability to do that, I think you'll see some of these services, or more of the ground services, lean toward performing. And we hate to use the word just RSI, because they're not doing just RSI. They're doing the advanced practice. I guess care. So anyway, so we're excited about that. I do think it ups the ante some as far as what we do in Alabama. It brings us more in line of what our neighboring states are doing. So we're excited about that.